All right, so like in the midst of all this news, Trump came out today and gave like this 2-hour impromptu press conference. This is why I love this guy. He had like facts and data just off the top of his head. Anything from Assad to jobs to like the stock or whatever. Just ask him, and he was answering questions just like off the cuff. But Trump took more questions today than I think Biden probably has in the last 4 years. But he did say something that caught my eye about these drones.
Our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense.
He knows. He knows what's going on. As the president-elect, you get daily briefings. I know he initially said he wasn't going to take them, but he's been forced to take them at this point. Look, he's as read in as anyone. But as he isn't even president yet, even though the world is acting like he's the president, he's not allowed to disclose classified information, which is why I think he said this.
I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it.
Look, when these things first popped up, I honestly figured they would have had this buttoned up by now, but nope, not the government. Apparently not. So, and now I have a pretty good idea why. This weekend, they had to shut down airspace over a military base in Ohio. You don't just do that for no reason. Look, I got theories, okay? That, let's be honest, over the last 5 years, my theories have all been pretty much right. Okay, I think these drones are ours. And the type of drones that they look for things, very specific things. Look, I was a JTAC, folks. I dealt with a lot of this stuff. Now, I know they are very specific because of the major agencies right now are all just pointing the finger at each other. You got Homeland Security pointing at the DOD pointing at Homeland Security. So they're from, let's say, a more independent OGA, as we called it in teams, other government agency. Now, are they actually looking for something? Maybe. There's a lot of theories about that, but I can't confirm any of them. But consider this for a moment. Remember about a year ago, the DOD, they sent a classified request to Congress to fund a short-term drone program for a few $100 million. Well, they didn't get the money that we know about, but why was the request classified? We know the Army specifically has requested additional funds in a non-classified setting as well. Look, I'm showing you. To date, Congress has not specifically allocated all their requests, but internal Pentagon dollars have flowed this way anyway. You know, the $5,000 for a hammer thing. And with a funding deadline just 4 days away, I mean, a shutdown will happen on Friday if they don't do this. What better way to bring the issue forward, right? Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, they're asking the right questions here. And since Congress's answer is to throw money at literally everything, does it seem that far-fetched that they might stage this whole thing with drones to get more money for their programs? Not really. Think about it. Why else would they so cagey about all this? First, they told us that they weren't actually seeing, we weren't actually seeing the things that we were actually seeing up in the sky with our own two eyes. Now they acknowledge them, but they say, oh, there's nothing to worry about. Why would I worry about a car-sized drone that nobody can identify flying above my head? Of course, right? Meanwhile, every government agency is, again, pointing the finger at one another, and the current president still has not addressed the nation on this. Like, he hasn't addressed basically anything for 4 years, but this is kind of something I figured he would have come out and talked about. Why am I so worried about these unaccountable drones flying over my head?
Your kids probably have one of these, right? Not quite.
That's why. A little tiny drone with a bullet on the front. And meanwhile, they're just closing airspace over military bases in Ohio, now saying the installation leadership determined that none of the incursions impacted base residents, facilities, or assets. What? Okay. What? I mean, it's like things that make you go, huh? This is literally on the backs of the fact that we just found out that for 4 years, me and a handful of other people, we knew, it wasn't a speculation, we knew there were feds or their counterparts in January 6th protests. They told us, whoa, you're conspiracy theorists. And would you look at that? There were, in fact, 26 that we know about, confidential human sources on the Capitol, that hill that day. 4 went into the Capitol, 13 went past the perimeter. Zero charges. Of those 26, 3 were tasked to go, 13 were and paid, by the way. 13 informed their handlers they were going, and 10 informed absolutely no one. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, Mike Johnson, where are the rest of the tapes that you promised to release when you became speaker? You see why I don't trust the government? What else has the government, via their left-wing media, lied to us about? Oh, that's right. There was that little known fake dossier that was funneled into the highest levels of the FBI to investigate and stifle the president of the United States. 4 years of Russian collusion turned out total hoax. 51 former intelligence officials told us that the Hunter Biden laptop right before an election was totally fake. It wasn't. It was real as it gets. Hell, they told us that Biden was sharp as a tack. Even the White House doctor was in on that one. Ivermectin doesn't work. Masks do. Vax stop the spread. Those were all totally wrong. Hell, the FBI entrapped a bunch of people to convince them to try to kidnap the governor of Michigan for a narrative. That was all BS. They told us the Border Patrol was whipping migrants. That was total fake news. They told us that they raided Mar-a-Lago because Trump had nuclear secrets down. Turns out all they took was a bunch of pallets of stuff that Biden had sent there at the end of Trump's term. They told us that BLM was mostly peaceful. Yeah, right. Okay, that's sure. All right, the Secret Service, they couldn't stop the shooter because of our sloped roof. They told us that Mar-a-Lago was worth $18 million, but they fined Trump $454 million for it. How about the fact that they've been telling us for the last 70 years that the world is going to end every 10 years from climate change? Look, I'm like 96-0, so excuse me for not trusting the thing that the government says, or does not say, for the next, well, at least 36 days. Like, you tell me you don't know what these drones are? In the same breath that there's nothing to be worried about? I don't believe you. And you owe me some answers on this. Otherwise, someone might fly that drone over the wrong house. Could be mine. Maybe we'll get our own answers. Well, but look, hey, look, if they're not the government's, right? You can't arrest me if I shoot one down. Just saying.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.